Yeah. You ready for it?
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm Kolaleh Eskandanian. I'm with Children's National Hospital, and I'm Vice President and Chief Innovation Officer there. And it's great to be with you here. And we talked about perhaps, repeating this presentation sometime in the next 2 weeks for those who were not able to join today. So pediatric research and innovation is still an unmet domain in research and innovation in general. So children are 22% of the entire population in the United States and half of the population in the world. And yet the NIH funding for research and innovation is only 13% of the total funding that the NIH at least provides. So still we're underinvested and underserved in that domain. And when you look at the population of the rare diseases, of them 50% are children, and many of them depend on novel medical technologies and devices, and yet 26% of all the class 3 PMA devices that were approved in the past Congress report that the FDA put together, of those only 26% were labeled and specifically studied in children. We talked about the fact that at Children's National, we focus our mission on defining innovation as the process of translating novelties and discoveries to our patients, families, and providers, and that is really focusing on the solutions that we want to provide to our patient population. They are in the 3 buckets of drugs, biologics, devices, diagnostics, and digital therapeutics. And today we focus really on the device development for the pediatric population. When we source innovation, we tap on 3 sources: research-based innovation. These are novelties that come out of our research labs. We constantly remind our faculty that it's great to publish, of course, because you need NIH funding for that, or government type of funding for that, but also have in mind how you can translate your discoveries and your great research to serve patients and families, not only in our hospital, but for the greater population. And hospital-based innovation is very important to us because this is where we work with the clinicians to define a problem statement. We invite them to come with a problem statement with us, not necessarily an idea or a solution, but bring us a problem that together we can find a technological solution for. And external innovation is really has really been made possible through the grant that we have from the FDA that helped us establish the Consortium for Pediatric Device Innovation. And this year we rebranded that effort, or rather last year, in late 2023. We reimagined the way that we were running this consortium for the past 10 years, and we created the Alliance for Pediatric Device Innovation with all new partners, and we're going to talk about that. So aside from funding that innovators need to work on their innovative concept or research, accelerator services are important, and at Children's National we provide that through our innovation ventures, which is the commercialization arm of Children's National. The Alliance for Pediatric Device Innovation helps innovators of medical devices, and we introduced also the Pediatric Technology and Translation Center, which is the clinical trial units for the hospital that focuses on device trials only, but also on alternatives to clinical trials for medical devices, for example, pragmatic studies, adaptive clinical trials, as well as decentralized clinical trials. And we also have Johnson & Johnson Innovation J Labs at Washington, D.C. on our campus, which is a good option for our faculty that spin out a company out of Children's National and need a space for their early stage company. So they apply on a competitive basis to obtain residency status at JLabs. So it's not an automatic process that, because we have this partnership with JLabs. Anyone who has a spin-out companies has a space at JLabs. So, we really want them to be successful on their own merits. We talked about the 3 buckets that we focus on, and also partnership that collaboration and partnership is very important, because although we employ a lot of smart people, we are not able to employ all of them. So we have to partner. And so the 3 new partners, Georgia Tech has been a partner of us for a long time because of the interest in pediatric device development and pediatric technology development. And we introduced 3 new academic partners late last year: MedStar Health Research Institute, which is our analytics and AI partner; Tufts Medical Center, because of their neonatology and also expertise in evidence generation and the use of real-world evidence; and Mass General Brigham, through the CIMIT program, has become our partner. With respect to industry and venture capital private equity, we really work with those who have an interest in small markets and specifically pediatric markets. With Cobicure, I should mention that they're sponsoring a pediatric device innovation fellowship program for us. So we are in the process of signing an agreement for Cobicure to sponsor 1 fellow a year for the next 5 years. We talked about joining the ARPA-H Investor Catalyst Hub and Customer Experience Hub as a spoke, and Georgia Tech is also a spoke to the Investor Catalyst Hub, and hopefully we can do we can brainstorm and come up with a couple of projects to offer to the network so we can work on and get it funded. Briefly, we are also part of the EDA-funded Advanced Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Tech Hub in collaboration with the Alliance for Building Better Medicine. The focus here is really on bringing drug manufacturing to the United States onshore to, in part, address the shortage of certain drugs that are needed in the pediatric domain and rare diseases. So we are the pediatric partner for this EDA-funded initiative to specifically make manufacturing simpler out there in the United States and making sure that they're affordable. Partnership with OrthoPediatrics is important to us because this company is publicly traded. The ticker symbol is KITS, and their sole focus is on pediatric device development, specifically in the orthopedics and spine domain. But they also have an interest, to what else might be possible, in the next steps for the company as they expand. We formed partnership with MedTech Color to tap on the resources, the talents that are not discovered necessarily, widely, and to make sure that, not only we focus and make sure that we test our solutions in all populations, but also, when the founders are coming from the historically marginalized groups, we can be sure that they know how to work with research subjects. They know how to incorporate, certain elements in device studies. So this partnership is really important for us. The MedTech Color is an FDA-backed nonprofit organization. It's a collaborative community, and we have partnered with them to have a pitch competition on March 15th as part of the LA MedTech Week. So LA has a MedTech Week in the second week of March, and on Friday, Children's National, in collaboration with MedTech Color, will have a pitch competition. We have selected 5 finalists, and we're very excited about selecting the best. We have also joined the Foundation for NIH, which is working to build the next model of pediatric medical device development. So they're, specifically, they recognize that, this is a multidisciplinary approach, to address the market failure that we see right now, the lack of available medical devices that are specifically studied in children. So the Foundation for NIH is bringing together partners from the government, private sector, venture capital, private equity, to all work on various work streams and see what the future will look like if there was support from all the stakeholders and not only from the government. So I want to mention that innovation also generates revenue. It took some time for us to demonstrate that we can actually bring revenue to Children's National, and that we are not only a cost center. And so this is what's important for the hospital to recognize that we have to always have this long-term goal, and success is not an overnight task. So it took us a couple of, well, I should say really 5-6 years to demonstrate some revenue generating activities. I can come back to these, but because we really wanted to talk about the National Capital, the Alliance for Pediatric Device Innovation. So in 2023, we received $7.5 million for 5 years from US FDA to establish the Alliance for Pediatric Device Innovation. And this was built on the success of the National Capital Consortium for Pediatric Device Innovation that we ran for 10 years. So our partners are Johns Hopkins University because of their biodesign, neurotech, and cardiovascular device expertise, and they have an interest in the pediatric device development. Tufts Medical Center, we talked about their expertise in evidence generation, real-world evidence, NICU devices, and also clinical trials expertise in specifically in medical device development. With Mass General, we work with their Summit Group, which also supports large NIH contracts, not grants, but large, very, very large contracts that depend on monitoring and evaluation, because these programs are so large that the government on its own cannot really keep track of direct funding as well as providing wraparound services. So they use this group called Summit, and we approached them to see if they were interested in also partnering with us and create a pediatric arm for that program. And so we've been working with them for a year, and so far so good. So we are working with them to specifically customize this program that they have. They call it GATES. T stands for tracking. It's the acronym. So it's basically tracking and evaluation. And it really tracks all the phases of the total product life cycle. It looks like a wheel. That tool looks like a wheel. And when we onboard a company, we provide them with that tool to for the companies to self-diagnose in terms of how far along they are in the process of device development and how much they know about each of the phases. So they do that, self-assessment on their own, and then we do it for them as well, and then we compare how the two views are different. They may think that they are far along and know a lot, and sometimes they're right, and sometimes we have to adjust based on our expertise of what else they should be doing. So I'm very excited about that, and that is something that Leanne, we can also work together once we have the beta version of Gates Pediatrics to run it by you guys to as an evaluator and focus group to get your inputs. We talked about MedStar Health, that is our partner in analytics and artificial intelligence, and also evidence generation and real-world evidence. And they're just across the street from us, so we're on the same campus, if you will, geographically. And we talked about MedTech Caller, which also is a new partner under the Alliance for Pediatric Device Innovation. Just to demonstrate, the success of the National Capital Consortium for Pediatric Device Innovation, which was established in 2013, and the 10-year report card that we demonstrate to the sponsor, the FDA, is that the projects and companies that we supported in the past 10 years, they were able to generate $500 million in follow-on funding. We supported 315 medical devices. Of them, only 30 received direct device funding, but in the market, we have now over 20 medical devices that received CE mark or FDA clearance or approval. I want to, okay, yeah, this is important to note that, again, in the past 10 years, of the companies that received funding from us, these were the companies that also landed a successful exit. So, if we were a venture capital firm and had actually, we invested in these companies, but because this is an FDA grant, there's no strings attached. So we don't take any equity share or absolutely no strings attached. But we demonstrate that we did have the eye to pick the winners, thanks to Emily, who has judged many of the competitions, as well as Leanne. So you guys have been judges in those competitions and have picked some of these companies. And imagine if we were a venture capital firm, right? We'll be very rich by now. So we're very proud to demonstrate that, thanks to the FDA grant, thanks to the consortium, we were able to actually put some products not only in the market, but also, part of big medtech that have larger sales team and can take these devices to more patients. Let's see. Yeah, so this is the structure of the Alliance for Pediatric Device Innovation. We are supported by a steering committee, a panel of experts, and we're really focused on, these six elements, from business, regulatory, reimbursement, medicine, science, engineering, and prototyping, and trials design. Trials design is really what the companies have been asking us, more and more. And because of that demand, we created this new center, the Pediatric Technology and Device Translation Center, because we see that they really need that type of clinical validation, the clinical champion within the hospital to move forward, studies that the FDA wants to see as part of the evidence and regulatory submissions. So that is hugely important. So that is, again, something, an area that we can work together. Perhaps, Children's Hospital in Atlanta can become a site in, some of our studies, or even when we are thinking about decentralized clinical trials, right? So it doesn't have to be a hospital, but it can be we call it now at point of need. It's more than that, at point of care, because, some studies can be done at home these days, right? So devices can be sent, and we have actually helped, Gabi Smart Care, one of the companies, with that. We sent their devices home with the parents, and with little education, parents were able to operate and collect the data that goes straight to the cloud. No need to send it by email or anything like that. But we want to see more devices for point of need, at home devices, at point of care, like retail pharmacies. So hopefully, hopefully it won't happen, but if there is another public health emergency, we're equipped, and we know that patients don't have to come to the hospital for those studies. So we talked about wraparound services. So the consortium provides basically two important elements. So one is the direct device funding, and the other one is wraparound services. So wraparound services are in areas of all the phases of the total product life cycle, all the way from concept development to prototyping, preclinical activities, clinical manufacturing, and marketing, and putting it in commercial space. And in device development, just to receive a clearance from the FDA, CE mark from Europe, or approval for PMA devices, that's not the end of it, right? In drugs development, your drug is in the market, and the rest of it is easy. You don't need to do, with these certain exceptions for rare diseases, pharmas are not asked to do very thorough post-marketing studies. But in medical devices, you have to still continue your studies even after your device gets approved or cleared and it's in the market. So that's why, we stay very connected. And that's why we are hearing more and more from the companies to work with us to do those type of studies that are needed, even past clearance or approval. So it becomes very important, to get this right, the clinical aspect of the total product life cycle. We do our direct funding through Make Your Medical Device Pitch for Kids competitions. And as I said, Leanne and Emily have been amazing judges for us in the past, and hopefully more to come. And these are the 5 finalists that will be competing at the MetaColor event on March the 15th. And some pictures of past winners as well. A couple of examples of, some of the studies that we've done at Children's National. These are companies that came through our device competition supported by the FDA grant. So Paramus is one example. So this device provides means to measure blood pressure. It's a blood pressure monitor device that for right now we have done a study in our NICU. It has potential to be a point of care or point of need device, so it can you can send the child home with this device for the continuous wireless blood pressure monitoring. So you don't have to keep the child, in the hospital. So significantly reduces the length of stay in hospitals. So they received wraparound services from us, clinical trials, as well as some direct device funding. Now they're also being supported by other PDCs, so that is fantastic. They got a 510K clearance, and as I said, they need a lot more post-market studies before they can firm up their sales funnel. In view, this was a very actually successful example that without any influence from our consortium, the clinical champion decided that Children's National has to buy this device. So that happens very rare, and we really take ourselves out of this because we don't want any influence or any perception of conflict of interest. But we did a clinical study with the company NView Medical, which provides visualization means for orthopedic surgeons so to better visualize what they're doing during surgery. And one of our surgeons became a huge champion, so he advocated this in our value analysis team committee, and fast forward, they decided on their own that they wanted to acquire this in our hospital. And they were able to get their device cleared thanks to the study that was done at Children's National. Gabi Smart Care is another example of a device that we did study at Children's National. And really, we helped this company in understanding how to design the trial, how to write a protocol for the IRB. This was a complicated study, not because the device is complicated, but because of all the logistics of sending the device home for the continuous monitoring and data collection. So they too received the 510K clearance, and we're going to do probably a couple more competitive effectiveness and economic studies with the company, again, for them to be more successful in terms of selling the device as the next step. This was a great, and Emily probably remember Eric Stone, and one of our early winners, I should say, of when we were still young ourselves, and they were a young company. We sourced and we scouted them, and they presented at one of our symposia at the competition, and they won an award. But we stayed connected with the company. Again, we did some feasibility studies at Children's National, which helped them with one of their 510K clearances. They have a couple of them. But eventually, the company was acquired by BD. So now BD is commercializing this, and the CEO of BD in his recent presentations has mentioned Pivo as one of the success stories. And BD is a huge company. They have so many other medical devices and products, but he has mentioned Pivo in his recent talks. So that's heartwarming. Another device, Bordy Diagnostics, came to us because, and I picked these examples because of the role that we played in clinical validation and clinical studies. So they were far advanced in terms of, device development, their partnership with the device manufacturer, but they really needed, the pediatricians and children's hospitals validation, the kind of seal of approval for their device. And again, we contributed to evidence generation for their regulatory submission, and they got a 510K clearance, and they were acquired by Baxter. So maybe I should stop here, maybe to take some questions, if you agree. Yeah. And it's 4 o'clock, but I'm here all day. I'll be here the rest of the week. So, do you have any questions?
We've got a quiet crew today.
Emily has a question.
So I know from our experience looking at curating what you've put together is impressive. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you engage in some organizations, because you were used to be so how do you bring all those other organizations to the table?
Yes, and really part of that grants was 80% relationship building and 20% or less writing. Most of that, we spend a lot of time just approaching and pitching to organizations to partner with us, and that wasn't difficult. Often it's just like pick up the phone and call, and they take your call. But with Hopkins, we had, it's been a 3-year process. So Hopkins approached us about 3 years ago because they have this program called CBIT, Center for Biodesign Innovation. No, sorry, Center for Bioengineering Innovation and Design. So it's very similar to the biodesign program at Stanford. And through one of our fellows, one of our fellows came from Hopkins, and he had just graduated from that program, from the CBIT program. So he made that introduction. So fast forward, and it was under COVID, the two programs were talking together, and we initiated a pilot pediatric biodesign program with CBIT. So that wasn't part of the grant writing process, but it was something that we started to build that relationship with Hopkins. And by the time we were writing the grant, we did have a couple of examples of projects that we had done with Hopkins. So if that fellow didn't come to me to say that, hey, you two need to talk together, I had no idea what CBIT was. I had no idea Johns Hopkins had that program. So sometimes I guess networking is, yes, networking is fantastic. MedStar Health Research Institute, with them, we work together all the time, but we didn't have a formal partnership with MedStar Health Research Institute. So they invited us to be part of their FDA grant, CIRSE. And so that started, the process of kind of actively working together, us with MedStar Research Institute. They have a very interesting study with Alexa. So they send for their research participants, they have this ambient listening at patients' home. And so we were part of that study as well, to inform them on, what should they focus on in terms of patient-reported outcomes for pediatric population. So that was MedStar, and specific examples of, pediatric studies that we had done together. And CIMMIT, we were introduced to them through Hopkins, and we were quite impressed about, these assets that they have available for free, because they created them using government funding, these contracts that they have from the government. So they created the Kolaleh tool, which is basically an application submission process that routes the application to the reviewers and all the way to the scoring. So it's an end-to-end solution. And they developed that for the RADx program, and they are making it available for free. So they charge us just a very nominal fee to set it up and to train. That's it. The tool itself is free. And then Gates Pediatrics, so that's a free tool as well. So yeah, so 80% relationship building, 20% fighting with grants and contracts. Yeah.
Have advice for
Yes.
clinician champions and vice versa.
Yes, and as you know, that's such a great asset to be in one building. So, the clinician can just between cases come upstairs and chat with our engineers and get engaged and all that. I think one through, the student capstone projects or, the grad student projects, I think that's probably the most logical way to get students engaged to work with clinicians. So engage clinicians to bring their problem statements, not ideas, problem statements to students and have students pick them. Yeah. And we don't have, so that's why we work with you guys, because we don't have that type of talent pool. We have smart engineers, we can't, again, hire all the smart people in the world, but the ones that we have are amazing, but there are not too many of them. So those are staff engineers, but we don't have the type of access to talent that you have here. The student body, yeah.
So I'm wondering, are there any more opportunities like that that are more for advanced like PhDs and postdocs?
Yes, so we have two programs. So we still have our Joseph E. Robert Fellowship for Pediatric Surgical Innovation that Emily is a graduate of. And we introduced the CobiCure Fellowship. It's very similar to that, actually identical, with the exception that with the CobiCure Fellowship, so CobiCure is a nonprofit arm of Deerfield Management, which is a large venture capital firm. And CobiCure was created as a nonprofit organization because they have a specific interest in pediatric medical device development with an emphasis on cardiac devices, cardiology devices, cardiology and electrophysiology devices. So they want us to source and scout specifically, not exclusively, but it's very hard to recruit, fellows. You have to plan almost a year in advance to recruit the type of fellows that are past residency program and want to spend 2 or more years doing research and innovation and clinical, right? Your program was 2 years. Yeah. So some surgical programs could be 3 years, fellowship programs, and then they take 1 year leap to come to our institute to do fellowship. And then perhaps, they finish fellowship or they go back to the clinic to do the clinical portion of that. So while the CobiCure Fellowship Program is looking for clinicians, but the other fellowship program that we have also looks for engineers. So not necessarily, medical students, but definitely PhD level, post-PhD, yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah, so and we don't, I think that we don't widely advertise because the slots is like 1 or 2 a year, right? So it's not fair to, but yes, the names are Joseph E. Robert Jr. Fellowship for Pediatric Surgical Innovation. And then the second one is CobiCure, CobiCure Fellowship for Pediatric Device Innovation. Sure. Funding is so good. Yeah. So,
Thank you so much for.
oh, thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'll give the mic back to me.
I will need mic, so but thank you everyone for coming here today. Thank you, Kolaleh, for flying from Boston just for the afternoon to talk to us. Super appreciate it. It's a great resource we have with them. I think there's a lot of great opportunities out there. So feel free to connect with me, Leanne West, if you'd like. Many people in the room know who I am. So if you know anyone in the room, you can probably find me. And I'm happy to help fill in any more gaps. We have relationships with Children's National, obviously with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Shriners Hospitals, Children's Mercy, and several others even around the world. So if you're interested in pediatrics, definitely reach out and we'll probably have a good connection for you. But thank you.
Yeah.